Hey there, I'm Chris Benetti, host of the Smart Author Podcast. In this episode, I speak with Julie Broad of Book Launchers, and we discuss the reason why that sought after bestseller status is overrated. Some of the main topics we'll be covering today include how to create a problem with your book and solve it with a bonus, how authors can use YouTube videos to grow their reach, and the way Julie markets her clients' books. At the end of this episode, please make sure you visit our website where you can find all the show notes plus links mentioned with Julie. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. And if you're struggling with book sales, head over to smartauthormedia.com/audit to get a free audit and a clear plan to get your book sales back on track. Now, let's head over to this fantastic interview. Welcome back to another episode of the Smart Author Podcast. Today, I'm joined by the awesome Julie Broad of booklaunchers.tv. Julie, how are you?
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And Julie, I would love, because you're an overwhelming source of knowledge and inspiration in the author space. I would love if you could give everyone a bit of a background to how you got started in this realm.
Yeah, it's always funny because I tell people, I have an MBA in real estate and finance, and I started a real estate education and investment company before. And then people are really, but you have a book publishing company. But it was all that real estate that actually I started writing a newsletter about the stories that I experienced as an investor. And that eventually became a book, which is how I got into the whole self-publishing world. And realize the power and the potential and the opportunity, and also the massive amount of challenges when you go into self-publishing. If you want to do it as well or better than a traditionally published book, so that you can compete with them, it's a huge minefield, and it's a big process. It's a year-long project, and I saw the need for a company that thought about marketing as they went through the entire process with you, because when I was hiring the pieces, there was people who were really great at writing, and there was people who were really great at editing and really great at cover design, but none of them were thinking about marketing, which is something I know you can appreciate. And I thought it needed to come in-house so that the goals of the book and the author are in mind throughout the whole process. And so that's what we do at Book Launchers.
Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, going back to your point there on marketing, like I feel as though anyone who is an author and they go traditional publishing route, even self-publishing, they're just like, oh, they'll figure it out. Or like, it's just like, it's such an afterthought. And it's like, marketing is the lifeline to your book success almost, and marketing doesn't just have to be paid advertising as well. Marketing is referrals, like word of mouth. Marketing is organic. There's so many aspects to marketing, but it's always just like, oh, let's write a good book, but not let's think about where or how we can get that book out.
A lot of people think that having written a good book is all that you need, but there's a lot of really good books out there that don't sell because they weren't positioned in the marketplace. And it's interesting because marketing, like you said, is a lot of things. And my first book, kind of what opened the whole world to me, what happened was originally I was in talks with Wiley, and they ended up turning me down. And so I decided I'm going to do this better than if I had traditionally published, so that none of my friends that actually got book deals, I didn't want them to be better than me, right? I was like, I'm going to do this just like they're doing with you. So I got my book in bookstores and everywhere. But the marketing plan was really simple. I didn't have a huge marketing budget. I talked to the people that were in my network, and they had wonderful people that followed what they suggested and advised. And I ended up taking my book to #1 overall on Amazon. So it was ahead of Dan Brown, ahead of Game of Thrones.
Wow.
And it wasn't, there was no paid at that point. There was no paid promotion. This was just influence from other people. So people with, my reader in their audience. So it was work. Like I worked my network really hard and had spent years building a network, but there's a lot of ways to sell books. And I think that's one that a lot of people don't actually invest as much time in as they could.
Right. And Julie, how did you actually accomplish that? And then why was it overrated?
Why was what overrated?
Being the bestseller. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Ellen never called me, so I never got to dance on on the show with Ellen. And Oprah, I was non-existent to Oprah, so that was pretty devastating. I mean, I'm joking, but I did feel like, selling thousands and thousands of books, there would be more that would happen. But that said, I mean, I actually was intensely proud of that, because again, I was rejected, so I didn't expect I would sell very many books at all. But how I accomplished it was like really kind of thinking about the 1 week launch period and going, what would be of value to people to share this to their audience? What kind of creation can we do? And I kind of lucked out a little bit in that this was all in Canada. I live in the States now, but I am Canadian originally. And one of the people that I knew in the real estate space was leaving the real estate space. And he had a course that was on how to invest your RSPs, which is like your retirement fund, like a government run retirement fund, into real estate. And that course is a perfect fit for somebody who reads a book on how to invest in real estate, because the next thing they're going to be is, how do I fund this? So it was a perfect match of something that was high value, that was, scarce, because he was leaving the business and wasn't going to be selling the course anymore. And you only ever could have got it by paying $300. And anybody who bought 3 copies or more of my book in that launch week got a copy of his course. They got access to this course. So it was a pretty huge thing, and it made it really easy for realtors, and realtors in particular. That's really what drove my book, to share it, because they were like, hey, like, buy it this week, this really great book that they were pumped to support. And you're going to get this course that's going to show you how to buy more property with your investment, with your retirement fund. So lots of logistics. That makes it sound simple and easy. There was lots of logistics involved in that, but that's the essence of what I did.
Right. And so when it came down to that, did you have to pay commissions to the person's course that you sold as well, like alongside, or was it gifted?
No, it was gifted. That's what I said. I was very lucky, like the timing. He was leaving the business. I'd known him for years. I'd been in the real estate business, for 12 years by that time. So I built some pretty good relationships. So yeah, there was luck and, lots of time and energy invested in relationship building at that point.
Yeah, cool. So like, I guess anyone who's listening, if you think about what can you add as an additional bonus as you go through your launch phase that is timely and relevant to what you're actually teaching in your book, and then who's the audience or the marketplace that can help prop that up to support that, because they're going to directly benefit from it as well. Now, that's a lot of different dynamics to consider, of course, but if you do all of those things together, I guess you'll get another perfect storm like Julie was able to accomplish.
Yeah, I can kind of, how I phrase it is, you think about the problem your book creates, and, because there's like the problem your book solves, and then there's the problem that after they're done and they've kind of achieved that, what's the problem that creates? And so you're selling the first solution, and then, the second solution is something that can be a really great bonus that people would pay money for. And so just to put that in the context of my book, it was like, my book will help you make the right decision to invest in real estate if it's a good fit for your lifestyle. And then once you decide you want to do it and you're going to follow this, now you need money. And so that's where the solution to the problem, and then the problem that solution creates, that's where those values. And then it's, of course, figuring out who's the people that have this problem and where are they hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as you transitioned into book launches, how did you build that business up? How did you start seeing success in that business? Like, I look at your booklaunches.tv, which is your YouTube channel, and I just see tremendous success over there. And like, you've done a fantastic job. Was that like at the forefront of you having success with your business, or was that an afterthought? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I mean, I strategically started the YouTube channel for book launchers. It was something I did right from the very beginning, because when I did my training and education company in real estate, I had a flip camera. If anybody remembers those like rectangular things that had a USB port and you uploaded it straight to YouTube. So they were terrible videos, no editing, no lighting, bad sound. And I did wonderful things in growing the education and training company from those. So when I started Book Launchers, I thought, if I actually create videos people will want to watch, and they're edited and they look good, and I've actually thought through what I'm going to say, that should really help grow the business. So it was a very conscious decision. And I mean, I love creating videos. I've definitely got a creator's heart. So it was an outlet for me, as well as a strategic business choice. to just go really intensely on YouTube, because I find a lot of people in the publishing space are kind of boring. Not to pick on them, but when I launched my YouTube channel, there was good information there, but you really had to work to consume it. So I wanted to kind of change that and focus on helping people with entertaining and educational videos. So that was a strategic part of launching it. But other than that, I actually, to get the business going right from the beginning, I took my network that I had in the real estate space and I sent out a note saying, this is going to be my company. Anybody interested in being a beta client? I know I've seen you do this too. Like, hey, I'm going to start this. I'm looking for betas. And I had 10 people pay me a small amount, but they paid me to create a book, and they knew me as an investor. So I was like, okay, we've got 10 clients. Now let's go figure out how to get them where they want to go. And that was how I launched.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So to break this down a little bit, side note, when I started Smart Author Media, I had not really ever run Facebook ads for clients, but now I'm running profitable Facebook ads for book funnels and getting results. Like it's, you'll figure stuff out if you have the determination, especially if you have the determination and someone has paid you money to do something you said you were going to do for them. You'll figure out how to make that happen. So I'm an absolute massive proponent of that. And, be transparent. Like if they're a beta client, tell them, hey, I haven't done this before, but this is the outcome that I expect to get you. And this is how I'm going to, work towards, getting that for you and, achieving that for you. And most people, they're willing to, put that money, invest in that. For me, I actually gave a guarantee. If you weren't happy with the last month of service, I'll refund it. I don't care. It's only to my beta clients, of course. But once I validated my offer, my service, and the results I was able to produce, not an issue anymore. That it was a forgotten thing. So.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think because I had built these relationships, people knew me as somebody who does what I say I'm going to do. And that's all it takes. It didn't matter that I hadn't published other people's books before. They were like, well, she's done it, so I know she can do it. And she says she's going to do this for me. And I know that I know that of her. So yeah, that was great. But I still have one of my beta clients is still a client to this day, still paying me her beta rate every month. I mean, her book's been done for years, but we've been out there marketing, putting her on podcasts and finding some media for her. But I will never raise her rate. Like I just, she was a beta. She trusted me in the beginning. I'm like, you're good. You're good.
With your YouTube channel, how have you seen the growth happen? Has it just been the consistency? Your videos, if anyone goes, and everyone who's listening now should go watch some videos from Julie. Just tremendous value, but the delivery style, it's like very snappy and to the point kind of content. Have you found that it's just because of the style that you use, or has it been the consistency, the time on the platform? What do you think the biggest successes come from?
That's a really hard question, because there's not really a metric to say that it's your style of delivery that gets it. We've done paid ads coming out of YouTube, so there's been some growth from the paid ads. We've built a whole funnel that kind of goes, you'll be shown random videos, but they're actually chosen from a sequence of the funnel that you've kind of started on. So if you're looking for a ghostwriter, for example, you'll see a specific number of videos kind of pop up, and invitations to book a call and invitations to download and things like that. So there has been a paid, for the vast majority of the last 5 years, there's been a paid element to it. But a lot of the growth, we've turned the ads off for months at a time, and it still grows. And it comes largely from old videos. A lot of the growth comes from the old videos where it wasn't necessarily as polished and I wasn't as clear on my voice. And so to me, that's the content, right? Those old videos, it's that you solved the problem that I came to YouTube to solve, and now I'm subscribing, now I'm commenting, and now I'm a part of the community. That's my guess, but it's, again, there isn't really a metric. I can tell you that a lot of our clients at some point have consumed quite a few of the videos, and that builds trust. So, I think that's an element of the delivery plus the content there. They're trusting in what we do after watching the videos.
Yeah. And is YouTube your primary source of lead generation for your business?
At one point it was pretty strong. Now I'd say it's half, because we get a huge chunk of our business from referral. That's a big piece. We do some conferences, but the conferences aren't necessarily generating a lot of leads. It gives us face time with a lot of people and builds partnerships. But I'd say it's about half of our business comes from YouTube, but almost all of it ends up being touched by YouTube.
So I actually had Andrew Kapp on the podcast, who is the author behind 3 Words I Use to Sell 100,000 Copies of my book. That's probably a butchered title there. But he basically had a law of attraction book, and then he sold 100,000 copies of that book, and then, released his second book, which was basically outlining the strategies, what he used to sell 100,000 copies of his first book, right? And it's pretty much all organic efforts, generally speaking. And so with Andrew, one of his proponents is setting up a YouTube channel for the book so that you can deliver value around the book, or even just the book's content in a different format. And then, I mean, for me as a marketer, I see what you're doing as well. Like, I would do call to actions and invite people to next steps in, descriptions and comments and things like that as a way to, give value, then, tell them what's next. Would you recommend other, people who are listening, authors, business owners, they set up a YouTube channel as a place for them to give additional value beyond their business, beyond their books?
I mean, it depends, because some people are already doing a bunch of things and they're already so diluted, they really just need to focus on one thing. And get great at that. So the answer does vary. But if you're into it, if you do like video, I'm a huge fan of using YouTube, especially if you've got a book. You've got tons of content that can be taken from the book and turned into little snippets for video. So you've got that, that's what I've done. My last book, Self-Publish and Succeed, some of it came straight from YouTube videos. I was like, oh, that's a good piece for this, took the transcript. And then after the book was done, I went back and I went, okay, what isn't already a video? And I turned it all back in. I was like, this can be a part. Okay, that's a section. That's going to be a video. And so you've got this content, so you should use it. And if you're not using it for video, use it for articles or something else for your content marketing, because the book is great material for marketing.
Yeah, and I mean, this generally applies to not just YouTube, but like, how can you do Facebooks or Reels or TikToks or around content? Like, just be omnipresent. You've already written a book. There's so much value in there. Like, it's very easy to like repurpose that content. And just because someone's listened to a few of your videos and you're giving away the secrets of your book, doesn't mean they're not going to go buy the book. Like, having a physical copy or having someone's book is so understated. Like, people still want to get their hands on that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, if you think about, if you're talking videos, your videos aren't organized in a way that people would consume it the same way they consume your book. So of course they're going to do that. And then on my YouTube channel, I have people I call my besties, and they're the people who are pretty much watching and commenting on every single video. Well, they've heard everything that is in my book, and they were the first people to buy my book, the first people to review my book. So yeah, I would say I wouldn't worry about that. Most of them, if something is repeated, they're like, thanks for the reminder. Oh, it was good to hear that story again. They don't mind. Your fans, they don't mind if you're using the same content a few times over.
Yeah, I love that. So Julie, I would love to switch gears and just chat briefly about, what some of the things authors can think about to do marketing for their book forever. Because there's obviously paid campaigns, which are very direct response and things like that. But, you just spoke about having a client for several years now on beta pricing. What do you do for a client like that month on month to, help market her asset?
Yeah, I mean, the kind of step back before I answer that question is the author has to understand what their big picture goal is. And so, a lot of people come in and they're like, I want to be a bestseller. And I'm like, great. What do you want that bestseller to actually do for you? Because again, it's fun, that big launch, becoming number one, that was fun. But it was really what it did for my businesses, my investment business, how the people called me and were like, I've got $250,000. Do you want to put it in the property that you're buying? And, my education and training company, how that grew. So what's the bigger picture goal? Do you want to be a speaker? Are you trying, do you have a course or a product or something else that you're offering? And think about that throughout the process, and think about what you're measuring. Because so many people, they measure their book sales and then they just, okay, I'm making $4 per book. Okay, so I only made $400 this month. But then they're ignoring the fact that they made $100,000 in consulting clients as a direct result of the 100 books that they sold. So,
Wait, one second. I literally just made a post about this. I kid you not, 20 minutes ago. Julie, go to my profile after this call and read my post, because literally this is the exact post I made.
Kindred spirits here, I tell you. But whatever you've said there is exactly because a lot of authors get hung up on the wrong metrics. And, if your goal is to be an author and all you're going to do is sell books, sure, focus on the $4 you're going to make per book sold and, try to figure out how to make an entire business out of that. But those days of authors being only authors, I think if they're not already completely dead, they're on their way. Like, you got to have an ecosystem. You're going to be making money from a lot, like even if it's merch and, ad revenue and sponsorships, like there's other things you're going to generate revenue from. So look at those and figure that out, and then kind of build your marketing around that. So that was the first question.
Well, just one example as well, like in the business space specifically, Mike Michalowicz is like an author, but like Mike has partnerships in like literally every single one of his book. There's some level of a partnership that book will lead to get assistance with the, obviously he solved the solution, but there's a problem that then comes up at the end of the book. Like, he's pretty much built businesses for every single one of his book and partnerships so that he can monetize that stuff. Even though he's just an author, he's got that ecosystem in the back end and a way for him to make additional profits, from there.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example, because I mean, the profit problem is everywhere right now, and people are little sub businesses off of that, and the book generates all the people into that whole ecosystem. So yeah, it's a perfect example. And then the other question was like the beta client and everybody else. I do the same thing for the beta client that we do for all of our clients. Every month we are pitching for podcasts and media and live appearances and newsletters, libraries, bookstores, wherever we're going to find their audience hanging out, we're going to put them in front of it. And to the point that we're already kind of talking about, a lot of people will look at that and they'll go, I did 4 podcast interviews, an event at the library and such, and I only sold 50 books, or I only sold 500 books, and they're disappointed because their goal was more. But then they ignore the fact that library appearance led to a $5,000 paid speaking engagement, which was the whole reason they became an author anyway. So that's what we do, and it's really up to the author to show up and deliver massive value on that side, but also to leverage every opportunity, because the book opens the door, you step through the door, and then it's up to you to kind of look around and go, what other doors did this just open for me? So
yeah, and I love that, because so many people think about launching a book and it's a campaign, it's an event, it's a one-time thing. It's like, okay, let's market the crap out of my book for 30, 60 days after it launches. And then it's like, okay, organic will take off from there. But it's like, no, I mean, someone said on my podcast that, this author basically thinks about their book and they talk about it like it's new all the time. Like, and it was written 15 years ago. Like, he just still talks about his book like it's new. He still goes on podcasts and talk about his book. I actually had Bob Berg on my podcast recently as well. Cool. And like, another example, like The Go-Giver is 20 years old, like kind of thing. He still talks about The Go-Giver like it's a new book. So if you just like continually market your book like it's a new campaign, like it's a new launch, go talk on shows, go talk on podcasts, interview other people, go speak at events, talk about your book. Like, I feel like that's, the part where people get lazy, or they just don't think about that enough.
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of it, a lot of people think about their book as a baby, right? They're like, the time frames tend to be the same. It takes 9 months to kind of create this baby. But then I look at them when they say that, and I'm like, yeah, but your baby's about to die because you're going to stop marketing. It's like you've stopped. It's like, I know you're a father, so you know this, right? The baby's born. The work actually begins when the baby is born. And it's the same with the book. The work is just beginning if you want to get the most out of that book. And so I think we should all be like Bob Berg and treat our book like our 20-year-old book, like it's a baby, because parents still call their 20-year-olds their babies. So I think that's a good plan.
As a 28-year-old, I can attest my mom still refers to me as a baby.
Yes, I know. My mom, I still remember my grandpa calling my dad, oh, the kids are back. And I was like, what kids? He was talking about my dad. It was really mind-boggling.
Awesome, Julie. This has been a fantastic episode. Thank you so much for all of the wisdom and value you've given here. Booklaunchers.com and Book Launchers TV are the best places to find out more about what you guys do.
Yeah, you bet. Booklaunchers.tv is our YouTube channel. That's where I'm hanging out. And booklaunchers.com is our service site, so you can learn what we do.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Damn, what an awesome episode. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing on your podcast platform of choice so you get notified every single time a new episode releases. And if you're struggling with your book sales, head over to smartauthormedia.com/audit to get a free audit of your book sales to see where we can help you bridge the gap between not many sales to a lot of sales. It's a free resource call that we have together where I give you some clear action steps that you can take to take your stuff from broken to selling. I'll see you over there. Thanks again for listening.